The spaghetti was a little overcooked, but the kids didn't complain. Bobby was twirling his into a makeshift mountain, while Lori tried to sneak extra Parmesan onto hers when she thought I wasn't looking. The kitchen smelled like garlic bread and home. The sun had just dipped behind the neighbor's roof, casting long gold streaks across the counter. I was halfway through telling them to quit flinging noodles when the doorbell rang. It wasn't the usual someone's at the door kind of ring either. It was long, firm, final. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and walked through the living room, catching a glimpse of blue and gray through the frosted window. A uniform, a trooper. Something dropped in my stomach like a wrench off a workbench. "Mr. Carter?" the man said. Mid-40s. State trooper hat still on. Posture stiff like he didn't want to be here. "Frank Carter." I nodded once. "Yes." His jaw clenched, just a little. Then he looked down at a tablet, as if stalling. I knew that look. I'd worn it when I had to tell my kids their dog Max didn't wake up that morning. "I'm afraid I've been asked to inform you that your wife, Meredith Carter, was listed aboard a private aircraft that lost contact with air traffic control off the southern coast of the Dominican Republic this afternoon. There's been no contact since. No emergency beacon. The aircraft is presumed down." I didn't speak, not because I couldn't, but because I wasn't sure which version of myself would come out. The one who fell apart, or the one who absorbed the hit and stood taller? "How long ago?" I asked. "Last contact was at 2:17 p.m. Eastern Time. About 4 hours ago." Lori's small footsteps padded behind me. "Daddy, who is it?" I turned slightly. "Just a man from Mommy's work, sweetie. Go sit with Bobby." "Okay." The trooper gave me a long look, the kind that lets a man know more hurt is coming. "There'll be an official call from the State Department. They'll assist with next of kin protocols." "I'm very sorry, Mr. Carter." I nodded once. He left. I stood there in the doorway a full minute longer, still holding the dish towel like a man gripping the handle of a buried axe. The house felt too quiet now, the kind of silence that chokes the walls. I walked back to the kitchen. Lori and Bobby stared at me, wide-eyed, uncertain. "Is Mommy okay?" Bobby asked. I looked at my son, 7 years old, with his mother's serious eyes, and felt something shift deep inside. Not break. Shift. "Mommy's plane isn't answering the radio," I said, sitting down slowly. "We don't know anything for sure yet, but I promise I'll take care of you both." They didn't ask any more questions. Kids are smarter than we think. They feel tone before words. That night, I sat on the edge of the bed Meredith and I had shared for 11 years. Her side still had the book she never finished. Her perfume bottle still sat crooked on the dresser like always. She hadn't even taken it with her. I stared at the family photo above the headboard, us at Lake Lanier, before Bobby's front teeth came in, and wondered how the hell you're supposed to tell your children that their mother is probably dead. But even in that first hour, something didn't sit right. Meredith's last text that morning had been oddly formal. "Flight at noon. Tell the kids I love them. Don't wait up." No kiss emoji. No heart. Just punctuation. I scrolled through our messages from the past week. They'd gotten shorter, tighter, less her. I stared at the lock screen photo, her laughing at Bobby's soccer game. That moment felt real. So why did everything after feel rehearsed? I laid back in the dark, staring at the ceiling, my hands crossed over my chest. I hadn't cried. Not yet. I wasn't sure if it was a shock or something deeper, because somewhere, below the fear, past the grief, a seed had already started to burn. Not a scream, not a sob, but the slow ignition of something that would carry me through the fire. It was the beginning of knowing. This wasn't the end. This was the first move on a board I didn't know existed yet, and I was going to find out who set it up. The thing they don't tell you about losing your wife in a presumed plane crash is how much paperwork there is. Death certificates that don't quite exist. Forms that require proof of loss with no proof to give. Insurance companies with patient voices and dead eyes. Every conversation ends with, "pending further confirmation." For 3 straight days, I played the grieving husband on speakerphone while folding laundry, managing 2 kids, and trying not to burn dinner. Every condolence call sounded like it came from a script. Every question about finances felt like a vulture pretending to bring flowers. By day 4, I'd spoken to her employer, the charter flight company, and 3 different reps from 2 separate life insurance policies. Everyone offered their version of "we're sorry," but none of them seemed surprised. That's what started to bug me. Meredith's job wasn't high risk. She was a compliance consultant, fluent in contracts, allergic to spontaneity, the kind of woman who wouldn't jaywalk unless a lawyer told her it was legal. And yet, somehow, she was on a private plane headed toward the Caribbean with no company travel log, no return ticket, and no client listed on the manifest. And then there was the money. I found her binder in the safe 2 days after the knock. Meredith kept records for everything. Passwords, account summaries, even backup copies of statements. Printed, dated, and color-coded. Her 401k had been emptied into a short-term offshore account 6 weeks before the flight. Her life insurance policy had been quietly adjusted 3 months ago, from our joint trust to a secondary beneficiary I'd never heard of. The name was generic enough to raise no flags: Ellis Raymond Holdings. When I called the agent, she said the change came with explicit legal documents from Meredith herself. All verified, all proper, nothing illegal, nothing obvious, just too clean. I stared at the kitchen table that night, covered in legal pads, receipts, and color-coded post-it notes. Bobby and Lori were asleep upstairs. The house was too still. That's when the knock came. It was 9:17 p.m. No one knocks that late without a reason. 2 people stood on the porch. One was a tall black man in a suit, mid-50s, salt and pepper beard, badge on his hip. The other was a woman in a tactical jacket with a messy ponytail and a sharp stare that told me she didn't waste time. "Mr. Carter?" the woman asked. "I'm Special Agent Celia Murray. This is my partner, Agent Barnes. We're with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation." I stepped aside without speaking. It was instinct more than invitation. "We're here because your wife's name came up in a fraud inquiry tied to her company's offshore consulting branch," Barnes said as he opened a thin file. "Nothing you're suspected of. You're not in trouble. We're just trying to understand the full scope." Celia didn't speak. She watched, observed. "I've already told the police everything I know," I said, motioning to the table. "She's presumed dead, unless you know something I don't." "That's what we're trying to find out," Celia replied. "When's the last time you spoke with her?" "Morning she left. Texted from the airport." "Can we see it?" I handed over my phone. She scrolled without asking. Barnes opened a folder of bank transfers and printed emails. I scanned the first few pages. Some of them were Meredith's messages, but not from any email address I recognized. Celia nodded toward the upstairs hallway. "Are your kids asleep?" "Yeah." "Why?" She hesitated. "Because some of the data we're reviewing might suggest your wife wasn't just on that plane." I held her stare. "You think she faked it?" "I didn't say that," she said. "But people don't move large sums offshore, delete email history, and reassign insurance policies unless they're planning something. And Mr. Carter," Meredith was careful, "these aren't beginner moves." Then she had help. We believe she did. Barnes stood up and placed a card on the table. "We'll keep you informed. Please call if anything unusual happens. Messages, visitors, anything." They left just as quietly as they'd arrived. That night, while I sat on the back porch with a cold beer and a storm of thoughts, Lori's voice came from the screen door. "Daddy? I had an accident." I stood quickly, but it wasn't what I expected. Blood on her pajama pants. Wide, scared eyes. Her first period. She was 11. Meredith should have been here for this. I froze for a moment too long. Not out of weakness, but because no matter how tough a man is, some things are meant to be handled by a mother. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. "Celia Murray, if you need anything, not just with the case. I mean anything, let me know. I've raised 3 nieces." I stared at the screen, then looked at Lori, curled up on the couch in fresh clothes with a towel beneath her. I texted back, "You up for a quick grocery run? Pads, chocolate, juice. We'll pay you back." 10 minutes later, Celia was on the porch, holding a plastic bag like a soldier delivering rations under fire. She didn't come in. She didn't say much. She just handed me the bag and nodded once. That moment told me more about her than the badge ever could. I didn't know it yet, but that was the night Celia Murray stepped over the line between investigator and something else. Something solid. Something this family hadn't had in a long time. The call came in from Bobby's school just after lunch. "Mr. Carter," the assistant principal said, voice tight, "we need you to come in. It's about your son. There's been an incident." I didn't ask for details. You don't need them when the words "your son" and "incident" land in the same sentence. When I arrived, Bobby was sitting alone in a beige conference room, hands clenched on the table, a red mark across his cheek. Across from him sat another boy, Caleb something, sporting a swollen lip and an ice pack. "He hit him," the vice principal said, unprovoked. "That's what the teacher said. He just walked up and decked him. One punch. He called my mom a whore," Bobby muttered without looking up. The room went silent. I looked at the principal. Where'd that word come from? Apparently, Caleb overheard it from his older brother, who heard it from his mom, who saw something on Facebook. I closed my eyes for a beat. Gossip travels faster than facts. And death, real or not, doesn't come with a reputation shield. "I'll take him home," I said. "We'll handle it." In the truck, Bobby stared out the window, arms crossed like he was trying to hold something in. I didn't push, not right away. We rode in silence, the kind that feels like a ticking clock. It wasn't until we pulled into the driveway that he finally spoke. "Can I tell you something, but you can't get mad?" I shut off the engine. "You can tell me anything, Bobby." He stared ahead. "Before the plane crash, like a week before, I saw something. I didn't move." He kept going. "I came home early from soccer because the coach was sick. I walked in, and Mom was in the bedroom, with some guy, on top of her." His voice cracked on that last sentence. I didn't say anything. I just ran back outside. I think she saw me, but she never said anything. I swallowed hard. "Do you know who the man was?" He nodded slowly. "It was that guy from her work, John Collier. He's been here before. He helped fix the patio light that one time." I remembered. Tall, expensive watch. They called me Frankie, like we were drinking buddies. Smelled like cologne that cost more than my toolbox. "You're sure?" "Yes." That was it. No tears. No sobbing. Just a boy who'd seen too much and said too little. I looked at him, not just my son, but the only man in the house who'd seen the truth before I did. "I'm sorry you had to carry that," I said quietly. "I didn't know if I should tell you. I thought it would make you hate her." I shook my head. "No, son. It just makes me see clearly." He nodded once, like that meant something. Later that night, after the kids went to bed, I sat alone in the garage with a beer and a box of old tools I hadn't touched in months. I wasn't building anything. I just needed to hold something solid. Meredith didn't just fake her death. She checked out of this family long before her plane went silent. The signs had been there. Late-night meetings. Her sudden need for space. The way she looked at me like I was a roommate who left his laundry on the floor, not the father of her children. She left us emotionally before she tried to leave us legally. Now she was trying to erase us entirely. That night, I opened her old laptop. I knew the password. She hadn't changed it. In the email archives, I found drafts, messages to someone listed as JC. Cold, strategic language. Instructions about offshore accounts. One line stood out. "Once the insurance clears and the kids are set, we vanish. He's not a fighter." Not a fighter. I smiled at that. Then I opened a new document. Started a list. Dates. Patterns. A timeline. I wasn't grieving anymore. I was planning. Because if Meredith thought I was some quiet fool she could discard for a better view, she was about to learn something about men like me. We don't scream. We calculate. We survive. And when the time comes, we damn well hit back. There's a special kind of anger that doesn't need raised voices or broken furniture. It moves quieter than that, like water under a frozen lake. Always flowing, always waiting. That's where I live now. After Bobby's confession and the emails I found, Something inside me aligned, like the click of a scope. I didn't call the GBI, didn't tell Celia. I needed to know more before the professionals got involved. I wanted this done on my terms, and frankly, I didn't trust anyone but myself. Meredith wasn't just running, she was watching. I could feel it. The inbox had been scrubbed clean the day after I'd checked it. Her Instagram was deleted, Facebook gone, LinkedIn wiped. But she'd missed one thing. Lori's account. It wasn't even active. We'd made it together months ago after a school project, and she never used it. But when I logged in from my laptop out of habit, something blinked at me, a friend request. The name was Roselance25. The profile was generic. No photos, no mutuals, just that odd name, a rose icon, and the request sitting unanswered. It had come in 3 days after the crash. I hovered over the name. What kind of person tries to contact an 11-year-old girl after her mother disappears? Unless they were testing the line. I stared at the screen. Then I clicked accept. Within minutes, a DM appeared. Hi, who is this? Is your mom home? It's important. Please reply. I didn't reply. Not yet. Instead, I crafted a message in Lori's voice. A soft hello. A confused tone. A child missing her mom and asking who this was. Bait. The hook was set. I kept the conversation vague but just believable enough. A few hours later, the mystery account suggested a video call, said she'd want to talk to you. But there was a catch. We had to be in a safe location, and they recommended Palm Beach, Florida. Something about that rang a bell. Meredith had once joked about retiring there. Said it was the one place you could hide in plain sight if you had money and fake nails. I didn't tell the kids. Didn't tell Celia. Just told everyone I was visiting my brother in Tampa for a few days to clear my head. I booked a one-way ticket to West Palm Beach under a fake name, my old high school moniker. The one I used when I ran track. Francis Elwood. The name on the credit card didn't match, but the kiosk at the airport didn't care. I landed on a Tuesday night and checked into a cheap motel near Lake Worth. Nothing fancy, just a bed, a bolt lock, and blinds thick enough to keep out questions. The next morning, I dressed in plain jeans, a Braves cap, and an old backpack with a decoy laptop and 2 phones. One real, one burner. If this was going to be a trap, I was walking in eyes open. I kept the Lori account active on my burner. Sure enough, another message came in at 9:04 a.m. Meet us by the benches near Worth Avenue Clock Tower. No police. No cameras. Just talk. Just talk. Yeah, right. I walked to the meeting point early, scouted the angles. The tower was busy enough to blend in, but not too crowded. A good spot if someone wanted to vanish into the background. Then I saw her. Across the street. Slim figure. Straw hat. That walk. It wasn't just similar. It was exact. Meredith had a certain stride. Confident. Calculated. Hips tight like she was always late to a meeting. She turned briefly, and for 1 second, our eyes met. And in that moment, I knew. She hadn't died. She hadn't even mourned. She had just moved on. With cash in hand, a forged death, and zero hesitation. I followed her. Didn't call out. Didn't charge like a fool. Just trailed her across intersections and into a gated neighborhood I had no business walking into. I snapped photos with my burner phone from a distance. Her gate code, her front door, the security camera above her garage. When she finally entered a large stucco mansion near the lake, I made note of the address. Then I walked to the gas station 2 blocks away and bought a Coke I didn't drink. Sat at the bus bench out front, staring at my reflection in the darkened window. My heart didn't race. I wasn't shocked anymore. I was preparing. Tomorrow, I'll come back. And I'd knock on that door. The house sat on a bend of the lake like it didn't owe anyone anything. White stucco, red clay tiles, and glass everywhere, open, exposed, like a dare. I waited until just after 9 the next morning. Not too early to raise suspicion. Not too late for the neighbors to start wondering who I was. When the gate opened for a landscaping van, I slipped through on foot like I belonged. Didn't look left or right. Just walked up the curved drive, paused in front of the door, and knocked 3 times. Not loud, Not soft, just deliberate. Footsteps inside, then silence. Then the door opened, and there she was. Alive. Real. Wearing a silk robe and no makeup. But it was her. Hair pulled back. Lips parted. A flicker of recognition, and then terror, washed across her face like spilled paint. She didn't scream. "Hi, Meredith," I said, calm as a man ordering coffee. "Frank." She stepped back, her hand fumbling for the door frame like she needed to make sure the house was real. Or maybe I was the ghost. "You look good for a dead woman." She swallowed. "You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be alive. And yet, here we are." A long pause. The kind of silence that makes liars sweat. "Did the kids cry at the memorial?" she asked, voice trembling. I always wondered. And just like that, I felt the switch in me snap. Not explode. Snap. "They cried," I said. Lori screamed into her pillow for an hour. Bobby punched a kid in the mouth. I had to explain menstruation to our daughter with a GBI agent buying pads at a gas station. So yeah, they cried. Her face crumpled, not with guilt, but discomfort. "What is this, Frank? You want closure? You want to hit me? Yell at me? Fine, but you don't understand what I was facing. Make me understand," I said. "Lie to me one more time." She tried. Oh, she tried. Told me about how the company was laundering funds through dummy consultancies. How John Collier found out and offered her a way out. How the only way to escape prosecution and provide for the kids was to disappear. Fake the crash. File the insurance. "And the affair?" I asked. She went quiet. "You were planning to vanish with the man you were already screwing in our bed. Don't you dare paint this as a noble sacrifice. You weren't enough anymore, Frank," she snapped. "You stayed home, you made dinner, you fixed things. But you weren't moving forward. I needed more." I nodded once. Let the words sink in. That's what it was. I was a good man, but not a new man. Not flashy. Not ruthless. Not expensive enough. Is that what John is? More. She didn't answer, but I didn't need her to. The side door opened. He stepped in. Collier. Tan. Smug. Dressed like a yacht salesman. And holding a compact rifle like he'd just pulled it out from behind the wine fridge. He froze when he saw me. Then his lips curled. "Frank, I was hoping you'd be smarter than this. And I was hoping you'd still be married to your first wife, John. Guess we're both disappointed." He raised the gun slowly. Meredith backed away. "Don't," she whispered. But he didn't lower it. I raised my hands, not because I was afraid, because I needed one more second. Just one. The crash of the front door came with a blast of footsteps and a voice that could cut glass. "Drop the weapon. Now." Celia. She and Barnes stormed in like a battering ram made of Kevlar and fury. Guns raised. Red dots dancing across Collier's chest. He dropped the rifle like it burned. They moved fast. Cuffed him. Pulled Meredith to the ground. Secured the perimeter. It was over in less than a minute. Celia turned to me, breathing hard. "You weren't supposed to come alone," she said. "You lied." I nodded. I needed to see it for myself. "You could have died." "I know, but I didn't." She looked at me for a long moment, then holstered her weapon and did something unexpected. She touched my arm. Not a squeeze. No pity. Just enough pressure to say, "I see you." Then she turned back to the arrests. And I stood in the middle of that marble floor, surrounded by betrayal, armed men, and glass walls. And for the first time since that knock at dinner time, I wasn't afraid anymore. They were cuffed and separated within minutes. Collier was dragged out first, spitting curses and half-laughs like a man too arrogant to realize he'd already lost. Meredith followed, wrapped in a zip-up hoodie that didn't belong to her. Head down like shame had only just occurred to her. Celia didn't speak until the last cruiser rolled out of the driveway. "Do you know how close you were to being a body on the floor?" she asked, arms crossed, jaw clenched. "Yeah," I said, "but I wasn't." She paced in front of me like she was trying to walk off a rage that didn't fit in her skin. "Damn it, Frank. We've been watching that property for 3 weeks, building a case, gathering evidence. You nearly blew the whole operation by going rogue. I didn't flinch. You wouldn't have found her without me. She stopped. You're not law enforcement. You're a father. You had no idea how dangerous. I had every idea. I cut in. I knew who he was. I knew what she'd become. I knew she was willing to disappear and leave her children to bury an empty casket. Celia stared at me, breathing hard. Then something in her expression softened. Not out of pity, out of understanding. She finally nodded. You still shouldn't have lied. I've spent the last 6 years watching my wife lie with a smile. I wasn't about to ask permission to confront the ghost of what ruined my life. We stood in silence for a moment. The house behind us sat still, the lake beyond it calm and glassy. They'll both face federal charges, Celia finally said. Fraud, insurance conspiracy, firearm possession, and attempted murder. Collier's facing a longer list than a Sunday church bulletin. Meredith, she'll get years, maybe decades. And the kids. She looked at me, really looked at me. I've got them. Barnes stayed behind in Atlanta. Your daughter called me when she couldn't reach you this morning. Said you looked different last night, too calm. She was worried. Smart girl. I exhaled slowly. That girl had more backbone than most grown men I knew. Celia reached into her jacket and pulled out a small black flash drive. We've been compiling this. Everything, bank transfers, flight records, offshore movements. Collier was using your wife's consulting firm to launder funds from international shell clients. She was in on it. You'll need this for court, civil suits, custody filings. I took the drive and stared at it. So small, but it carried the weight of my family's ruin and my leverage to reclaim what was mine. I'm going to lose the house, aren't I? I asked. She tilted her head. Probably. The insurance money? Gone. It was flagged. You'll likely have to pay some of it back, assuming you haven't already. But that's down the road. I nodded, jaw tight. Then I start over. Celia stepped closer. You're not starting alone, Frank. You've got your kids. You've got truth on your side. And you've got me, if you want it. I looked at her. Really looked. This wasn't a woman trying to play hero. This was someone who'd seen my worst moment, walked through it, and hadn't blinked. I didn't say anything sentimental. Didn't hug her or weep. I just nodded once. Solid. Man to woman. Survivor to survivor. She understood. She always did. We walked back to the street in silence. The late morning sun starting to cook the sidewalk beneath our boots. A bird chirped. A boat hummed somewhere across the lake. Somewhere behind us, Meredith was probably still telling herself it was all justified. But the badge didn't care. And neither did I. Meredith's trial hit every major news network from Atlanta to Anchorage. The headline was made for ratings. Georgia wife fakes death. Tries to kill husband in Palm Beach mansion. I couldn't leave the house without hearing her name on a car radio or seeing her mugshot on a gas station TV. At first, I tried to shield the kids. But there's only so much you can do when your mother's crimes are a YouTube compilation and a meme. The trial lasted 2 weeks. Every minute of it felt like pouring salt into an open wound. They played the recording from her house. The part where she told me I wasn't enough anymore. Bobby heard that one. Sat in the hallway afterward and didn't speak for 3 hours. Meredith sat in court like she was auditioning for pity. Clean suit, soft hair, folded hands. But her eyes gave her away. She wasn't sorry, just cornered. She is 22 years old, eligible for parole after 12. Collier got 35. No parole. A federal weapons charge sealed it. I didn't celebrate, didn't throw a party. I just walked out of the courthouse, hugged my kids, and told them what came next. We're moving, I said. Lori looked up. Where? Someplace new. Someplace quiet. Seattle. They didn't argue. They didn't cry. They just nodded. We sold the house. Well, technically, the bank did. Half my savings vanished in legal cleanup. The rest went into a modest 3-bedroom rental near the outskirts of town where it rains more than it doesn't. The change of scenery helped. The press cooled off. The neighbors minded their business. For a while, it was just the 3 of us. Rebuilding, learning, surviving. Bobby started playing baseball again. Lori made friends in her new school and took up sketching. I found work doing appliance repair for a local contractor. Nothing glamorous, but it paid and kept my hands busy. Celia called once a week, sometimes twice. Then she started visiting. No badge, no updates, just takeout and quiet talks while the kids watched movies in the next room. She never pushed, never fill silence just to fill it. After everything, that mattered more than I could say. We finalized the divorce on Tuesday. I signed the papers in silence, mailed them back to Georgia, and went to a diner alone that night. Had coffee, didn't touch the pie. When I got home, Celia was waiting on the porch. She didn't say a word, just sat beside me. And in that quiet, I realized the storm had passed. Not forgotten, not forgiven, but passed. 2 years later, Seattle rain still hadn't gotten old. I stood on the front porch in a soft flannel, sipping black coffee while the wind rattled the wind chimes we bought last fall. The street was quiet. Trees dripped. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked once and then stopped. Celia stepped outside, her badge now long gone. Her hair pulled back in the same no-nonsense ponytail that used to come with a GBI windbreaker. Now it came with slippers and a grocery list tucked under her arm. "You ready?" she asked. Almost. The kids were already in the SUV, fighting over the AUX cord like usual. Lori was taller now, too tall, and Bobby had a scar above his eyebrow from a backyard treehouse mishap that I still swear wasn't my fault. They called her mom now. They did it slowly, naturally, on their own time. Celia never asked for it. She earned it. I poured the last of the coffee onto the step and looked down at the quiet life we'd built. No mansion, no flashy furniture, but it was ours, and it was real. No secrets, no lies, just scars, and a roof. And that's enough for a man like me. Sometimes people ask if I ever miss Meredith. I don't. I miss the version of her I thought existed. The wife who kissed the back of my neck when I fixed the dishwasher. Who whispered, "You're the only man I'll ever need," after the kids went to sleep. But she wasn't real. She was a performance I didn't know I was paying for. What I have now isn't perfect, but it's true. And after what we went through, truth's the only thing I care about. Celia stepped close and adjusted the collar of my flannel like it mattered. "You're thinking too hard again," she said with a smirk. "Just making peace with the past." "Babe, the past's not even on the map anymore." She wasn't wrong. I locked the front door. I walked to the car, opened the driver's side and looked back once. The man I used to be, the one who made spaghetti for kids while his wife planned a vanishing act over the Caribbean, died the day that Trooper rang my doorbell. The man I am now? He's leaner, tougher, and when he loves, it's not blind. It's armor. Some men fall apart after betrayal. I rebuilt, stronger, sharper, and finally whole.